Hello Dragons, and welcome to this instructional video for Lesson 3, Part 3, Campaigning for Office. The main idea behind this civics lesson is campaigns are organized and carried out by a vast network of volunteers and professional managers. Some of the jobs involved in a campaign include conducting polls, arranging media events, and fundraising. With that in mind, by the end of watching this video, you will be able to explore how campaigns are planned and managed, describe how campaigns are financed, and identify factors that help people win elections. Now that the outcomes for this lesson have been shared with you, let's get started.
What do you think of Jarman?
Smooth character.
You think someone ought to take him on?
Some big-time Democrat.
They're all afraid of him.
I guess you're up against it then.
Unless we find something new. Someone who has something he believes in.
Whatever that means.
Someone who can spend a whole year telling people what he thinks is important.
Not that way, he doesn't. Not in any political campaign.
Oh, it doesn't have to work that way.
Oh, don't tell me how it worked. I watched my dad for 20 years.
That was no good, huh?
Yeah, it was good for him. He loved it. He got to be Governor John J. McKay.
Well, I'm not
What
talking...
good it did for anybody else, though, I don't know.
Well, I'm not talking about him. I'm talking about someone who can call his own shots.
The stuff you call politics?
I was wondering what it was.
Hey, I have to go home for about an hour. Janice, did Nancy drop the car off?
No.
Did she call?
I can drive you home.
Okay.
Of course, you could go on filing lawsuits in the sticks for 100 years, or you could take a year and lay out a real position for yourself in this state. It's a question of the
Hi,
long...
kid.
Marvin?
This is my wife, Nancy. Nancy,
Hi.
this is Marvin Lucas.
Don't let us interrupt.
Want a beer?
Yeah.
There you go. Some goodies?
With the contacts, for example. You're going to meet people who know how to get things done.
Hey, listen.
It's a matter of resources.
I just worked straight through the weekend, 20 straight hours. And I loved every minute of it. So what do I need what you're offering? I'm happy.
You're happy.
Yeah.
Clams are happy. What did you accomplish?
Would you like a list?
You saved some trees.
Yeah.
You got a clinic open.
That's no good?
Does that make you feel good?
Not bad.
Meanwhile, Jarman sits on his committees and carves up the land, the oil, and the taxes. Have you ever seen him? Have you ever seen him operate?
Marvin?
Yeah.
What's in it for you?
Oh, an air card, a phone card, $1,000 a week.
That's all?
Well,
Marvin wants me to go into politics.
What else is new? What office?
Senator.
Well, why not? If he really put his mind to it. That means you'd have to register. He never has, you know.
Hasn't been any reason.
Well, I hope you keep that a secret.
Unless you took it seriously.
Look, the point is, you can go with the things you believe in. For openers, you've got credibility. You've got the name.
What do you mean the name? You're not going to bring my father into this.
Okay, we won't.
He's got the looks.
Right.
And he's got the power.
What does that mean?
You know what that means.
No, I don't.
Well, you gentlemen will excuse me. I have to remove some film from the bathtub before it rots.
You're saying I can say what I want, do what I want, go where I please.
That's right. Here's your guarantee.
I lose.
That's it. So what are you worried about? You're free, McKay. You don't have a chance, so say what you want. It's just between you and the public. The question is whether you can put your ass on the line.
Now, the question is whether it's worth it.
Well, thanks for the beer.
In the movie The Candidate, actor Robert Redford plays a man running for Congress. At one point, the candidate says that he wants to go where I want, say what I want, and do what I want. His campaign advisor then writes a message on a matchbook and pushes it toward the candidate. The message reads, "You lose." Campaigning for a major office is not something a person does alone. It is a highly organized, tightly controlled activity. To learn about how a campaign for a major office works, you will learn about the way candidates run for the presidency. Keep in mind that not all campaigns take as much planning and money as a presidential campaign. All of them, however, share a common goal: to get the candidate elected, and most use the same techniques to work toward that goal. A person who is running for president in the November general election has already passed several major hurdles. After winning primary elections and caucuses in many states, the candidate has been nominated by his or her party at its national convention. He or she has chosen a running mate, raised a large amount of money, and built up an organization. Much work, however, still lies ahead. A great deal of thought, planning, and hard work by many people goes into a presidential campaign. Paid staff members work with the candidate to plan and carry out the campaign. Thousands of workers put in long hours stuffing envelopes, making telephone calls, and ringing doorbells. The candidate's party contributes money, people, and other kinds of support. The final success or failure of the campaign depends not just on the candidate, but also on the organization as a whole. Besides the candidate, the most important person in a campaign is the campaign manager. Along with several small groups of assistants and advisors, the manager helps plan the broad outlines of the campaign: where to go, what issues to talk about, what image of the candidate to put forth. The manager also guides the work of other important members of the staff: fundraisers, speechwriters, media advisors, and so on. The manager also keeps in touch with the people who run the campaign in different parts of the country. These lower-level managers are in charge of the thousands of volunteers who work in the field, handling the day-to-day campaign work that is needed to win the election. Finally, the manager is in charge of the workers who plan for the candidate to appear at meetings, picnics, and rallies. These advance people make sure that the candidate is in the right place at the right time and that a big crowd is on hand. A successful campaign must keep its finger on the pulse of the American public. How do people think things are going? What issue should the candidate be talking about? A presidential campaign usually has its own opinion poll taker who finds the answer to such questions. The poll taker is able to find out which issues the voters think are important. Polls can also show what impact the campaign is having in different parts of the country and among different groups of voters. Wherever they go, people who run for president are followed by plane loads and bus loads of people from the media. Making certain that the news shows the candidate in the best light is the job of the campaign press secretary. The press secretary tells reporters about public appearances and gives them copies of speeches and policy positions. The press secretary also helps make sure that the media is on hand when the candidate is making news. A television news report on a candidate's visit to a children's hospital will be seen by thousands of people. Such media coverage is a good source of free publicity for the candidate. One way for national candidates to get their message across to the public is by advertising in newspapers and on radio and television. A campaign hires media advisors to create these advertisements. Television ads especially can have a major impact on a campaign. Media people have learned that saying bad things about the other candidate can sometimes work better than saying nice things about their own. They also know that it is often best to focus on image and style rather than issues and ideas. Some critics say that this approach amounts to little more than packaging and selling the candidates. It is up to you, the voter, to view these ads carefully and to pay attention to the propaganda techniques being used. People who run for president and for other national and state offices have one thing in common. They need a lot of money. As Tip O'Neill, former Speaker of the House of Representatives, once said, there are 4 parts to any campaign: the candidate, the issues of the candidate, the campaign organization, and the money to run the campaign with. Without money, you can forget the other 3. In 2020, for example, the 2 major political parties spent over $14 billion on state and national elections. Where do people get the money to run for office? Candidates for local, state, and national office get most of their money from individuals. Many candidates, especially those for national and high state office, also get money from political parties and PACs. In the early 1970s, the high cost of running for office began to worry people. They began to think that individuals, businesses, and interest groups that gave large sums of money might have too much influence on candidates. In response, Congress passed several laws making rules for how campaigns for federal office can be paid for. The law now says that no one person can give more than $2,900 to a candidate. The law also says that candidates must report the name of anyone who has given them more than $200. As a result, the public can know where the money is coming from. Congress set up the Federal Election Commission, or the FEC, to carry out these and other rules. Changes were also made in the way presidential campaigns are paid for. Citizens may now give $3 of their taxes each year to a presidential campaign fund. Every election year, the FEC offers money from this fund to each of the major candidates for the presidency. This system was first used in 1976. Once presidential candidates accept these public funds, they cannot accept or spend money from any other sources. FEC rules allow a PAC to give up to $5,000 to a presidential candidate in the primary elections. However, in the general election, candidates who have accepted public tax money may not take money from PACs. Of course, as you have learned, this rule does not keep PACs from spending as much as they like on their own campaigns in support of certain candidates. Many people complain that elections cost too much money. The high cost of running for even a local office, they say, keeps many good people from running at all. If costs continue to rise, people ask, will only the wealthy and candidates backed by wealthy individuals and groups be able to run and win? Questions like these were behind the laws that limit contributions for federal elections. Some groups, however, would like to go further. They want to have all campaigns paid for entirely with public funds so that candidates do not have to raise funds privately. How much should campaigns cost? Who should pay for them? The debate over these issues raises questions that by now should be familiar to you. Does our belief in equality mean that all candidates should have an equal opportunity to run and to get their message across to the public? On the other hand, does our belief in freedom mean that every citizen should be free to give as much money to a candidate as he or she wishes? It is a goal of our democracy to elect people who will be our best leaders and decision makers. Being a good leader and being able to make good decisions, however, are not all it takes to win an election. As you have seen, it is also important to look good on television, have a good organization, and be able to raise a lot of money, especially if you are running for national office. It also helps to have the backing of either the Democratic or Republican parties. One other factor is also very important. An incumbent, someone who already holds the office for which he or she is running, has a very good chance of winning. Incumbents win re-election far more often than they lose. In 2018, 401 incumbent members of the House of Representatives ran for re-election. 395 of them won. An incumbent has a name that voters know and a record to point to. Unless an incumbent has made major mistakes, a challenger usually faces a hard battle with only a small chance of winning. So that's the way it is with Lesson 3, Part 3, Campaigning for Office. At this point, you should know that several key campaign workers help candidates win the offices for which they are running. Candidates keep track of voters' preferences by referring to polls. Campaign finances are necessary for candidates to be competitive in state and national elections. And most winning candidates share similar personal and organizational characteristics. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel to have the entire catalog of civics videos available at your fingertips. Click the subscribe button and then click the follow bell to receive notifications as to when the channel is updated. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in class, Dragons.